Welcome back to the Bearded Console Gamer, and today, my friends, we're going to be breaking down Nintendo's latest 2021 quarterly earnings report, which dropped on August 5th earlier this week. We'll be talking console and software sales, what led to Nintendo's seemingly poor financial performance, and finally, we'll be discussing where that leaves the entertainment giant moving into 2022, because, spoilers, things aren't as bad as they look. And as always, if you enjoy the show, be sure to like and subscribe, or I'll mistreat the mathematician that I keep imprisoned in my basement to help me when I need to talk about numbers. I call him Kenneth, by the way, though he insists that isn't his real name, and he is guilty of no crimes other than being slower than the more handsome and athletic number wizards that I initially tried to capture. Anyway, Kenneth just started rattling his gruel bowl against the bars of his cage, so we'd better get started. On August 5th, Nintendo released their financials for the fiscal quarter running from April to June 2021, and on the face of it, things didn't look great for the Japanese entertainment giant. The release revealed that Nintendo had recorded an operating profit of 119,752 million yen, which equates to roughly $1.1 billion, and which is down 17% from the 144,737 million yen recorded during the same 3-month period in 2020. That is a significant amount of cheddar lost down the cheddar hole. On top of that, the data highlighted that sales from the Switch family of consoles were also down significantly from previous years, with the new report revealing that Nintendo shipped a further 4.45 million Switch consoles during the 3-month period, which is down a significant 21.7% on the company's 2020 sales record. And that's largely accounted for by a sharp reduction in demand for the Switch Lite, while the classic Switch continues to sell well and actually increased the amount of sales it made in 2020. It's also worth noting that with the addition of these 4.45 million units, the Nintendo has now sold a grand total of 89.04 million Switch consoles to date, surpassing the 86.8 million sold by the Xbox 360 and the 87.41 million sold by the PS3. It is now the 7th most sellingest games console of all time. And of course, the Switch still has a lot of life left in it yet. As far as we can tell, the portable console is still well on track to surpass the 101.6 million sale record set by the Wii, and that could even happen as soon as the end of this financial year. Although the key factor in that race is whether Nintendo can overcome the console production issues brought about by the current global shortage of semiconductor chips. But of course, console sales aren't everything. The recent report from Nintendo also revealed that its net sales were down almost a full 10% on the most recent quarter relative to the same period last year, with the company sliding from 358,106 million yen in 2020 to 322,647 million in 2021. And of course, a huge part of that dip in profit is down to the fact that, during the same period in 2020, Nintendo had a new release in the form of Animal Crossing New Horizon, which was selling to the tune of 10.6 million. Whereas this year, the software offering is relatively lackluster, with Mario Golf Super Rush and Pokemon Snap leading the way at 2.07 and 1 million copies sold respectively. And now that we've covered the data, let's get into exactly why Nintendo is experiencing this downturn. Because these figures really aren't that bad, they're only bad in the context of the company's performance in 2020. And whilst that was a terrible year for the world in general, it was an incredibly profitable one for Nintendo. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic shut down most of the world and forced us into prolonged periods of lockdown that lasted for months at a time. This caused masses of people who perhaps wouldn't ordinarily have been interested in the hobby to turn to gaming for their entertainment needs, which of course in turn led to a sharp rise in demand for consoles and, more specifically, in the Nintendo Switch, the most accessible and friendly of all of the consoles. And of course, as we said, it didn't hurt that Nintendo serendipitously chose to release Animal Crossing New Horizon just as all of the terrible was kicking off. That game is honestly responsible for getting a lot of people through the stress and anxiety of the early months of lockdown, and it's still selling pretty damn well to this day. So yes, Nintendo's numbers are down from 2020, but that isn't as terrible a downturn as it first appears. It's largely the result of consumer spending habits returning somewhat to their pre-pandemic norms following the gaming boom of 2020, paired with a relatively lackluster software offering. And granted, Nintendo missed their own internally set profit goals for the year, but they're still so cash rich thanks to the Switch era sales that they're planning to spend around $900 million to buy back almost 2 million of the company's shares in order to cancel them. Which essentially means that they won't be available to purchase again, which means Nintendo won't be obliged to pay out dividends on them for the future, so they'd save money there. My point is, Nintendo is doing pretty great, despite the apparent turndown, and even if the slump were to continue, it really wouldn't matter much. I mean, Nintendo has a war chest the size of which you would not believe stretching into the billions and billions, so don't expect anyone to start making knee-jerk panic decisions at the top. They're very much going to stay the course. Furthermore, we're likely to see Switch sales pick up again in the upcoming quarters as the OLED Switch hits the market, because despite the fact that a lot of people were extremely disappointed with the lackluster revision, it's still gonna sell like crazy. I mean, I immediately broke and ordered one because it's got a slightly bigger and better screen, and because the kickstand is actually gonna be useful. And in terms of software, well, this is an area where Nintendo has found themselves wanting, and we'll just have to wait and see what they have in store for us in the next Nintendo Direct, which is probably gonna be sometime in September. And one more obvious point now, we really shouldn't place Nintendo's financial downturn, quote unquote, in the context of its two main competitors, Microsoft and Sony, both of which appear to be maintaining their 2020 COVID momentum due in part to the extra gamers that they picked up during that period, but also because they both just released a new generation of consoles in the very recent past. And on that note, having overburdened you with all of my information nuggets, I'm gonna leave it there for today. Let me know what you think about Nintendo's situation in the comments section below, and as always, if you enjoyed the episode, please remember to like and subscribe, and to keep it here for all the biggest news from around the video gaming industry.